the only show focused on stars' improvement strategies and the leaders who implement them. This is the Rising Stars with Rex Wallace Show, brought to you by Hyperlift.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to Rising Stars. I'm Rex Wallace, the host. This is my co-host, Mick Twomey. Mick, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
It is not every day. In fact, it's never ever happened before when we've had two 5-star plan leaders on the screen at the same time with Mick and me. And we are in that position today, so we're super excited to dig into what does it take to be 5 stars and to really celebrate a couple of people that Mick and I have been privileged to get to know and work with over the past few years. So let's bring on our guests. So first we have Ann Rakes. Ann is the Director of Quality Improvement from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, a newly minted 5-star plan in 2023 stars. So welcome, Ann.
Thanks.
So good to have you on. And then we have Kim Barrus, the Director of Clinical Outcomes and Management from Select Health, another perennially high-performing plan in its second 5-star year with Kim. So, Kim, welcome to the show. So glad to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So there's so many places that I know we want to go today, and maybe let's just start with Ann. Let's start with you because your story in this chapter, right, that you're writing right now that you've written. I'm a huge fan and I love the way it's played out. So for anyone who doesn't know, Ann's been at Blue Cross Blue Shield Tennessee for several years, leading quality. They've been high performing, virtually all along, right? So a lot of years at four stars and the way they used to tell me 4 stars, flirting with 3.5 and instead of 4.5 too often, right? It was just and just kept doing the right things and kept never kind of rested on her laurels and kept driving improvement and using practices from management consulting books that I've seen her do and in all kinds of things, and got to 4.5 stars with COVID, right, in 22
yes,
stars
during COVID.
And then in 23 stars, plans were supposed to fall, right? But Ann actually catapulted the plan with her team to 5 stars for the first time ever. So post-COVID relief achieved 5 stars. And by the way, now she's retiring. So so retiring in January, has handed off the reins to her successor, and she's able to ride off into the sunset. At least from at this point, she's got many more plans, I know, but to really walk away at 5 stars, which I just think is remarkable, and I'm so happy for you. So maybe take a second and talk about how are you feeling? How does that feel to achieve it and then be able to step away?
Well, it's been, as you had mentioned, Rex, it's been a long time coming. As you said, we were doing all of the right things. We were looking at ways that we could always improve. But I think probably the big pivotal point for us, and I'm going to give a shout out to Mick, is we started Hyperlift a couple of years ago, and we have a really good data team. I'm not saying that they're anything less than great,
yeah,
but we were kind of limited in how we could look at our data. So with the initiation of the STARS monitor, we could slice it and dice it and look at it multiple different ways. And you could see that last year, coming out of COVID, we jumped from 4 to 4.5, and then this year we jumped to 5. And I really have to say it's been our ability to really look at data in different ways and implement things that we hadn't implemented before because we had the data to do it. It's all rainbows and unicorns right now, leaving at the beginning of next year. And unfortunately for my team, or fortunately for my team with me leaving, I'm still driving with them to continuously improve. We can always do better. And there are points, and, as you have seen in your past history and others' past history, that there are, some points that just really stick, and trying to figure out how to get those points past the sticking point and to the improvement point. So yes, it's great that I'm leaving on 5 stars. I think that was probably my ultimate goal. But it's not going to be easy to keep it. Let's put it that way.
For sure. Yeah, and maybe and I want to come back to several things you said, but first I want to pivot to Kim, and what you just said is a perfect, I think, segue to Kim. So Select Health, another perennially high performing plan, 4.5 stars, I think, over the years, right?
Mhm.
And achieved 5 stars the first time, right, during the COVID relief, 2022. However, as we've said, we've had
But a
Kim's
legit 5 stars.
exactly. We've had Kim's predecessor, David Larson, on the call before. He was actually, I think, on our first episode, right, where we
Our
actually
first episode, yeah.
yeah, after you guys got 5 stars that first time last season, and we made it clear, and Mick's done all the analysis and can validate you would have achieved 5 stars even without the COVID relief. So it was definitely not any kind of gimme, right? Like, it was hard earned and well earned. But and then David retires, right? So after they hit 5 stars for the first time, David retires. It's a very similar story here. And Kim, although she was a key part of all that success in the past for the last several years, you weren't at, your name wasn't at the helm. So I have to think you felt some pressure coming in, and being the leader after the actual technical or whatever leader on paper, right after David left. And to Ann's point, it's harder to keep it than to get it. But you have so Kim takes over last year, and now COVID relief is gone, and they achieved 5 stars again in a second year. They sustain it 2 years in a row, right? Which is, to Ann's point, harder sometimes than getting it the first time. So, but Kim, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I have to think, if I'm you, like, now I feel some, I don't know, some more pride, right? And in the actual leadership role. But you tell us kind of how you feel.
Yeah, so it, worked on Stars with David. So definitely learned a ton from him. And it is scary to have someone leave at a 5-star, and then the next rating coming is going to be on you, and wanting to make sure you maintain that. And David was a part of Select Health for many, many years.
Right.
So those were big shoes to try to step into. But I love this crazy nickname that Mick gave me a while back. He says I'm manic about stars, and I just am endeared to that term now. I love it. But that's just kind of how our plan is. Our leadership is super supportive, and they're hungry for information about stars and what's coming and what's changing and where are we at. I agree with Ann, and with a recognition to Mick and Hyperlift, the Stars Monitor tool has been really helpful for us. We also have an extraordinary data team, but I'm not sure if there's a plan around that would tell you we have enough resources. And so the trick with data and ability to keep pivoting and going back and saying, okay, this looks like this, but now I need more information, it's difficult. So having the Stars Monitor with ability to be able to slice and dice differently and give us a different view, one of the things that was really helpful for us, I think, and allowed us to, I'm just so excited and so proud. We not only maintained our 5, but we have a stronger 5 for 2023 than we did in 2024. I am super obnoxious about this, but you got to be proud when you have it, because it's so hard to keep it. You don't know if it's going to happen next year. But Absolutely. We ended up with our Part D and Part C were both 5s. And I really think it's the engagement from everyone across the board, across our system, ability to, peek into the data a different way. something that I would suggest to plans if you're not doing it today, and that Stars Monitor really helped us with, is the ability to keep track and watch out for the reward factor and the quality improvement, right? If you've just got the minimum of your resources, you're looking at how your performance is going on measures, but to be able to look at that paradigm and see if you've got something that's on the ledge that you've got to make sure isn't going to fall off, or you're so close to a buffer, that's actually been really an engaging message for us in our group to help get support on measures that on the surface look like they might be fine, but maybe are at risk. So yeah, it's an incredible feeling. It's super exciting. They tease me because I have I should have brought them. I have them sitting over here, but I have green, Select Health green. We got pom-poms that anytime we're at a meeting where they talk about that, we shake the pom-poms, but we're just, yeah, it's really exciting. We're really happy.
Well, I have to say, both of you referenced Stars Monitor, and I will say, it's very humbling, frankly, to hear that from you guys. But it's one thing to have data. It's a totally different thing to be able to do what you guys did. I mean, when you look at the organizations that you guys have created and that you guys lead, it's different than ones that we see in other places, and that's really, to me, the differentiator and what enabled you guys to achieve what you did. I mean, I think about a couple of examples. With Ann's team, doing those the quarterly meetings where all the measure owners come in and they're reporting out. Like there is a level of ownership. It's just real, right? It's not a check the box mentality. They are on it. They're reporting their stuff. Everyone is accountable and understands, and it's really following kind of what Ann has laid out. And with you, Kim, I think about so many of those meetings where you bring the broader team in and the measure owners, and we start going through stuff, and just the level of engagement, the amount of teamwork that really comes in. You can't fake that stuff. I mean, it is legit, and everybody kind of feels a part of it. And I think that is a real differentiator from what you guys both do versus what you might typically see.
Yeah, we focus a lot at Select Health over the years, especially the last probably 3, making sure that all of the departments and teams understand how they impact stars. Some teams have no mention of Medicare in their daily work or their job descriptions, but what they do directly impacts how we're able to maintain stars because of the support that they give to our teams and kind of that downstream. So we've worked really hard to make sure that everyone understands how they have an indirect or a direct impact to stars. We have a regular practice for us. We have huddle boards across the system where each group has their key performance index measurements, and we've asked every team to have something related to stars, whether it's an indirect or a direct. And Mick, you're right. There is a sense of pride and ownership in those measures, and just like anywhere else, we've got reports everywhere. We've got lots of visuals and for people to see how we're performing. Nobody wants to be on the bottom. So a little competition doesn't hurt. I'm not the only manic person at Select Health. So having those visible and a little bit of, we want to make sure that we're showing good on that report, does create a lot of ownership and pride just across the system.
I also think that a lot of it has to do with the engagement from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
When we have engagement, which we do, we have great engagement up at the top, and it's always encouraging when the senior execs talk to the customer service folks or the outreach folks and ask them how they're doing, for things like that. That gives them a sense of ownership as well. We're fortunate up until COVID. Now there's so many flex this and that, home and office. We used to be all on the same floor. So all of the departments, the outreach department, the claims department, the customer service area was all on the same floor. And we were able to interact with people very frequently, I could walk out my door and listen to a call to a member, and when I turned around, I would I would be able to say to that consultant or that particular customer service agent what a good job they did. Um, we really we really encourage them on a personal level too, and I think that has put a lot of pride in what they do. So you can always ask customer service, well, who did you talk to today? And they can give you a list of people. Well, what were they talking? Well, we have to talk about, what their benefits are. But I reminded them that, they're due for a breast cancer screening. And those are the things that they do it without thinking because everyone is so engaged.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Kim.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say our customer service we're definitely big fans and champions, and our leadership recognizes them often. Um, I too try to round and meet with those groups when we can. And one of the things that we stress with them, they take calls day in and day out, all day long. They're on calls. That's just what they do. But helping them to make sure they recognize that one call with that one member might be the only interaction that that member has with the plan this entire year. So that might be the pivotal thing that they're thinking about when they get their customer service call, or their survey, excuse me. And so I think that's really helped that particular team of, oh, that is a big deal. And especially with the caps being a weight of 4, we have a huge impact in our star rating.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, it also falls to the execution aspect of things, and a bit of the kind of determination and focus. Like I think about um, specifically like with you guys, Kim, last year when the caps results weren't coming in the way, kind of that same kind of
Yeah.
response rate that you had before. And it was a few emails, a few calls, and then all of a sudden everything changed. And it was just it's not giving up, right? It's going after the team, getting them engaged, understanding what needs to be done. And like Anne, I remember I don't know, a year ago, maybe even more than that, when you guys started really pushing on that Q4 push. And it's like, all right, here, what are the measures that we need to do? And all of a sudden they're like, all right, Mick, we got to change the game. We need to start doing this and this and this. And now we're going to start looking at this stuff weekly, very specifically. And what stuck out to me is, this stuff is hard, right? Executing like high performance, continuing to execute at that level, it's just hard. And what I noticed about you guys is it's an acknowledgement that, yep, it's hard, but we're going to do it. And it's that commitment to sticking to it and following through. And again, not just checking the box. It's just, yep, it's hard and we're going to have to go do it. And that's, to me, that's another big differentiator from what I've seen with the organizations that you guys run.
Yeah, when I look at you two, and you've kind of alluded to things like the the buy-in with the executives, right? The sponsorship that you get from the leadership, your the teams and I mean, even like your engagement with providers. Like, I guess, the question I have is, and I know the answer to this, but, would you consider, is it, are you two as leaders, because you've both been at your organizations for quite a while, right? Are you sort of products of that culture, of an already strong culture, or influencers of that culture? Are you, two of the key people that helped create the culture that exists there, that does help make this happen? Because I think you have to have that culture before you can be a 5-star plan, especially, right? But I don't think and I'll go ahead and answer the question. Like, I think you two are leaders who helped create those cultures, right? I don't know those cultures are there, at least in the stars area, without people like you leading the charge, never resting. And I mean, I can think of so many examples. Like, I mean, Anne hits 5 stars for the first time. Then what does she do? She revamps the whole work group structure, right? Like, she changes a lot of things because it can be better, right? It's not it's not exactly where it needs to be, even though they hit 5 stars, right? Like she recognizes opportunities for improvement continuously, right? So, but yeah, can you maybe can you talk about things in your background that helped you kind of become these people who are so competitive and don't take no for an answer? Not in a bad way, but
I don't know if there's anything really in my background that would point to being competitive. I'm just competitive. I'm inherently competitive, and I expect the same. And there's an old saying that you hire people that have your own pathologies. And I think I've been successful in hiring people who are competitive. They want to show, I guess they want to show the world or even the state that they're as good as the national companies, and that, where the national companies have the ability to use multiple markets to bring up their scores. We just have our market. So our market is better than or as good as some of the nationals. So I think that's where it comes from my end anyway.
Yeah, for me, to answer your question, did we help to build the culture? Or did the culture build us? I've been at Select Health for almost 28 years, so I don't think I could even try to pull off that wasn't influential to my to me. But I think it's a combination of both.
sure.
For nurse by background and a nurse that felt like she never got enough bedside care time. And so, when we're working with providers, I remind them, these are my patients. I'm sharing them with you, right? We got to take good care of them together. And that's, I think, how our plan comes at things, right? It's all about the member and the member first, and that passion for helping the members live the healthiest lives possible. That's our mission. We're all working together for that end game of the member. And I think that's what feeds into our culture. I think that's what feeds into our engagement. I think that's what helps with that sense of responsibility and helps us to kind of keep those relationships going, right? Past life project manager, which I think is really what Ann and I both are. You cannot get to a high performing stars plan with a stars team. You'll never make it. So I think that project management mentality, where you've got to be building those relationships and you've got to have strong communication so that you're bringing all of those parties in that you have no leverage or authority over. That's what makes a strong culture community, and it really builds what you need to get to 5-star, because they all have other things that they're working in and working, that are priorities. So we've got to make sure that we've got strong relationships and we can keep the importance of those measures and the work that we're doing. And when it comes down to the why for the member, I think that's the tipper that brings everyone on board.
Hmm. I would have to agree with that.
Yeah, Mick and I just got back from a conference, the Rise Star Ratings Masterclass, and a lot of good stuff happened there. But we had an organizational behavior professor as a keynote speaker one day, and he talked about if you are like there's the analytical part of your mind and the empathic part of your mind, and people don't activate both of them at the same time, right? So as and I think I see this where stars leaders and many other leaders, right, who are leading these complex matrix programs, right? Um, it's easy to stay in the weeds, right, and to be focused on every measure. And when you are so in the weeds, you are, for the most part, unable to be really empathic to your team and to your partners. And this is where I see you guys both realizing the importance of the relationships, like you just said, Kim, in building those teams and those teams. I mean, I see how the teams respond to both of you, and how much respect they have for you, and how I think they would follow you off a cliff, right? And I think, but you understand the nuances of every measure. You're able to balance that, but to come out of the weeds to focus on the relationships. And I just yeah, I think you both are experts at that, and I think that's a big part of your success, at least from the outside looking in, right?
That's really
Any,
kind. I liked what Anne said about the way you hire people and who you draw to you. We've got a ton of people that are just as manic and passionate about the members and making sure they're having quality outcomes. So a lot of it is supporting that team so they can do their best job.
Yes.
And then they're happy to be there. They're excited to see the outcomes that they got to have an impact too. So that's a lot with the relationship and the team, Rex, I think, is just supporting them so they can do what they do.
I've always called it a team sport. I've
Yeah.
never called it an individual sport. So when you build your team, you hope to have people who don't always have exactly what you have, but have other attributes and things that will help bring you along. So when you talk about it as a team, I truly agree that you accomplish a lot more.
Yeah, it's the ultimate team sport for sure, and especially because it's a matrix program, right? And matrix environment. I mean, it's all about influence, right? Not control, but and I hear so many people say, we can only control so much, but in stars that's true, but you can influence everything, right? And yeah, and I see you two definitely doing that. What would you say to um whether it's a new stars program, new stars leader, or just someone who hasn't quite gotten their organization, where they need to be yet? What advice would you give them on becoming higher performing as an organization? How to lead that charge?
I think for us, that senior leadership, I think, is first. I think also as you're thinking about the different departments, teams, parts of the organization or your network that you need to get engaged, I think it's important to think about the why for them, right? There's a lot of whys for stars. There's a lot of reasons it's a great idea to work hard and to have high achieving metrics and measures. If I'm talking to finance, it's maybe a little bit different why it's important than when I'm talking to our case management team or our provider network or something. So I think first working with that senior leadership and helping to bring them along so that you have that show of force for everyone else, that this really is important to our organization. And then I think focusing on the paradigms of why and knowing who your audiences are to help bring them into the fold.
And I would have to agree with that. You starting with senior leadership and moving your way down and building the relationships and the understanding of what stars is about. And it doesn't happen overnight. We had senior leadership buy-in, but not necessarily the leadership from the matrix organization. So it takes time to build those relationships, and you have to be consistent in what your messaging is and what you're trying to achieve and the why it's going to be good for them. So I truly believe that part of it, although Kim and I are maniacal about keeping things going, I think a big part of it is the relationships that you have to build, or as you had said, Rex, the empathic part of you, where you have to come up out of the weeds and you have to build those relationships in order to be successful.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of studying, at least on our team, on how to build a strong culture of quality, right? And I know, creating safe spaces for teams, right? And being vulnerable ourselves, and all that comes into play, right? And yeah, I feel like and being empathic, obviously, with people and recognizing their challenges. So yeah, I mean, we see that play out every day with both of you. Anything we should have asked about you two, or about being a 5-star plan, or that we didn't?
We talk a lot about the leadership in our internal teams, and we talked a little bit about our networks and the different components of delivery system. I think often people think primary care because a lot of those measures are primary care driven, but we got a lot of partners that aren't primary care that are on the delivery side. I think it's important to make sure that they're a part of that strategy and they're a part of the conversation, they're a part of the work. For us, we have our Intermountain owned and operated clinics, but we have non Intermountain owned and operated clinics. We actually have more on our, we call them affiliates, on our affiliate side than other. So we have dedicated teams that work with those providers to help them understand how their performance is looking and what members might need some outreach, but making sure that they understand how important they are to us and how valuable and how much we appreciate what they're doing. I think that's maybe the other piece that we didn't really spend a ton of time on, but they influence, right? They influence a ton of our stars measures. They're a part of our caps. They're a part of all of our outcomes. Honestly, they're a part of our own internal processes too. When we think about appeals turnaround and overturns and how those cases work, and if we can do peer-to-peers early instead of waiting for them to have to go to IRE and overturn, there's just so much. To Ann's point, it's a team sport, but it's not a health plans team sport. It's a system team sport, whatever that system looks like. If it's a closed network or open, it really takes that extended team to get there, and it takes some support from leadership to be able to have the resources to do that work too.
Yeah, and when
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think Kim, like you guys at your organization, have one of those kind of unique relationships with at least some of your provider partners, right? But I think when I think about stars especially, right, like everything you do, everything everyone does, right, it's on a spectrum, right, where like other organizations, ladder sponsored, have key relationships with providers, but they are not high performing. Nothing's a given, right? So it's taking what you have and really influencing it and leveraging it to its highest capability. Same with you, Ann. Like I know plenty of other plans who have all their employees on one floor, but they don't have a great culture. They're not high performing, right? Like, but really leveraging the things that you have and taking, I guess, taking what the defense gives us or kind of what we're working with and and really making the most of it, like getting the most potential out of it. In on that spectrum, right, going to the very as close to the far right as we can to in everything we do. And I know we have so many examples of things we've seen just this year alone with you two. I know that fit into that maniacal and in a good way. But it really is, yeah. Mick, anything else?
I just got, I was just kind of reflecting back on this. Rex and I have been kind of looking forward to this session for a long time. We've talked about this one a lot, and I feel very lucky to have gotten to work with you guys and kind of go through this process with you. And I've really enjoyed just sitting around and talking about this stuff today. So I think it's kind of lived up to all of the hype, at least that Rex and I put on it ourselves.
Me too, from my standpoint, for sure. Yeah. No, we have been looking forward to it. We're huge fans of both of yours and feel so privileged to know you both and to get to work so closely with you. And and I mean, good luck in retirement. We're so excited for you and we're both ready to be there too, I know.
You're looking for the rainbows and unicorns too, right?
There you go.
To go out on top, right? Yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure. Yeah, and Kim, looking so forward to doing anything we can to help you sustain perennially that 5-star rating, right? So thanks so much for joining us today. And for sharing some insights and just letting everyone get to know you. We're excited for that. So thanks. Thanks, guys. We'll talk later, okay?
All right. Thanks, Rex.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.